welcome to another session of What the. Today's topic of discussion is value creation versus value destruction. I know some of you have probably heard of these strategies before. How can you be a value creator rather than a value destroyer? Well, value creators, they're the ones, and I can go into our previous conversations in regards to how to perpetuate those strategies that are, well, conducive to a sustainable society. And sustainability, let's see here. What civilizations have been around the longest? We know the Chinese have had 5,000 years of history. So that is a civilization that has existed for 5,000 years, and it is still sustainable. One of the strongest economies in the world. So, how do we perpetuate these sustainable strategies in regards to civilizations amidst all these circumstances of war and weapons and so on and so forth? Well, obviously, it is innovation. We have to constantly innovate. If we do not create change, then those strategies that are, because we always know the big picture. It's always about creating better and better tools for efficiency. What are we wanting to do now? The next frontier, space, obviously. So instead of, okay, we want to conquer this land or conquer that land or conquer, all that nonsense that exists currently with the military-industrial complex, let's start exploring again. And how do we create that momentous type of value creation that just keeps building upon itself? Because all we have to do is look up and wonder. I wonder if that star has planets orbiting around it, and that, and that, and that. And they said, and they are NASA, they have said that there are billions of planets they have discovered. And how do they know there are billions of planets out there? Because the stars give us the answers. And those stars, the star will have a little bit of a wobble. And the wobble are those planets that are orbiting around it. Some have an eclipse. So, there are different analogies in regards to how can we identify those planets. And plus the upgrades in the Hubble telescope, and now they have a new telescope that's going to be online here in the next couple of years. These things can go deeper and deeper into our universe, and they estimate, I don't know how many light years out, that they can discover these new galaxies that are a billion times bigger than the Milky Way, that have billion times more stars. And just, can you imagine how immense our universe is? So that's exciting to me, because knowing that we're on that frontier, we're on the frontier of actually starting to explore space. We're coming up with strategies with spacesuits and orbiting technologies, and there's so many opportunities that we can start developing and strategizing on where do we want to go. We know that in our solar system there are moons that we could possibly go to besides our own moon. The moons around Jupiter and Saturn, and just those, planets in our own solar system. So, and we have even looked as far out as, I think, 5 light years, and we have found stars that exist within this ring of 5 light years. And these stars, they were referred to as a red dwarf star. And they don't burn as brightly, and we recently discovered them in the last decade or so, or maybe 20 years, or I'm not sure exactly, but I know that they were just recently discovered, and it was because of the new updates that they had created with Hubble. So, knowing that all these opportunities exist on these new frontiers, and all of our technologies that we can do to where we can sustain life, 1,000 feet underground or underwater, or even in the air with jet travel and so on. Culminating all those technologies and creating sustainable infrastructure and possibly terraforming other planets with life preserving resources, food and water and so on. I mean, that is mind boggling to where we can actually accomplish that. So that's what we have to do. We have to transition to where 95% minimum we have to be as a culture, as earthlings, start thinking about how do we become value creators. Value creators. That is what we have to do in regards to entering into the space industrial complex in regards to the next frontier. So now is the time to begin all these strategies. And we have to do these things in order to become that civilization that can last another 5,000 years. And just looking at what we have accomplished over the last 100 years, could you imagine what the next 5,000 years is going to be like? It's going to be incredible. So this has been another session of What the